Top of the hour in Madison, Wisconsin, 11 a.m. local time on this October Friday. On a very lovely day for racing. We've seen all sorts of weather conditions over the years, but pretty good conditions for the collegiate racers today. I'm Paul Swangar, joined by Olympian Kara Goucher, Mike J. Having the opportunity to hear from him earlier on. We'll hear from him again. He is also the PA announcer on site for this race today. And official weather report, 67 degrees with humidity in the 70% range, winds gusty to about 12 miles per hour. But hey, shorts weather in Minnesota. Of course, shorts weather may go down into the 40s for all I know.
It's nice for this time of year. I got to tell you, this is good weather. I don't see beanies on. People are enjoying it. A little breeze, but nice weather.
And as we mentioned earlier, the other big meet on the schedule this week is pre-nationals, and that was moved up to today. So racing happening there as well as here, and the combined results of these two events will really be what everyone will be kind of paying attention to. But we'll get into it in the men's championship race. The number one ranked team in the country is here, Iowa State, but the plan, as we heard from their coach earlier on in the week, is to sit most everybody who ran just a week ago at Gans Creek. So, a chance to see their depth and not necessarily have to, they're feeling comfortable they can make it through that regional. A lot of the reasons that teams are here is because you can get sort of like power points for at-large bids that, you want to put your teams in the best position should you not be able to get through as an automatic qualifier to get invited to the dance in Missouri as well. But, this is, the one thing that this race course isn't is the championship set up this year in Missouri. This was the host school a year ago. A lot more undulations here. That course in Missouri is set up to be flat and fast.
Yeah, well, that's very different than this course. This is a true cross-country course with turns and hills and rolling along this course. So this is what I would consider more true cross-country rather than something that's a little bit flat and faster.
Of course, a big year for the sport of cross-country domestically, as we'll turn the calendar to early January, and they'll be hosting the World Cross Country Championships this year in Tallahassee, Florida, which is a cool moment for those who are fans of the sport. If you have a chance to get down there in early January, it should be a fun weekend of action. The qualifying for that for Team USA will be out in Portland in early December. And already hearing that newly pending ratification American record holder Connor Mantz is saying he's going to toe the line and try to make the U.S. cross-country team.
Well, he is a two-time NCAA cross-country champion. That's where his roots are. I think he will make that team. I have no doubt he'll make that team. We actually saw a shot of his coach earlier with his B squad here on the start line at Eyestone, which is just remarkable to me. A week ago he was coaching Connor Mantz to the American record in the marathon. He was on the broadcast, and now he's here coaching his college team. But it's going to be very exciting to have the World Cross Country Championships in the United States. I think it's a special opportunity for athletes that came up through cross country that want to represent the United States in their home country at the World Championships. So everyone's excited to see Connor Mantz come back and try to make that team in December. Paul, I would never, ever bet against Connor Mantz. I think he has a very good chance of making that team and a very good chance of mixing it up a month later at the World Championships.
Well, that's what he's been talking about in kind of post-race reflections, too, is, now, records are great, but, medals and podium finishes, and that's what he wants to attack next. And having that sort of ability to kind of recalibrate your goal setting is certainly what makes great athletes remarkable athletes.
Absolutely. He's just an incredible athlete. He's been so fun to watch, and again, he started, we learned who he was through cross country, through the NCAA cross country system. So it's been fun to see him grow so much as an athlete, do so well, and it's really cool for someone like me who loves cross country so dearly to see him want to recommit to it and run it at home in the United States.
So World Championships in early January, and there's been some reporting that actually is not new reporting, but kind of brought back the discourse around the effort by World Athletics to see if cross country could be added into the Winter Olympics program. So I don't know if that would be French Alps in 2030 or when Salt Lake City hosts in 2034, but would be, Kara, you and I and other members of the Olympic broadcast team for NBC were sort of like, hey, we could actually do another one, it would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, my first reaction was just pure jealousy because I would have loved to have tried to make an Olympic team across country, but then our coworker Otto Enu reminded me, hey, like maybe you'll actually be able to call it. That would be cool, which would be very, very cool. It would be an honor, but just what an opportunity for the athletes if they do put that in. And I think it would do so much for this sport. This sport is so big on the college scene. It's so big in high school. And then on the professional level, it tapers out a little bit. There are some cross-country circuits in Europe, but it's not really that big in the United States. And so we kind of lose our love of this sport and kind of move away from it. And putting it in the Olympic Games would really bring it back to make it important in the United States as well all the time, every year. So I'm very excited about this news. I hope it comes to fruition, and I hope it does get into the Olympic Games. And I'm excited to see the opportunities that would give to American athletes.
Well, that's true for sports like this, but also true for other sports seeking growth. And the best example I can think of, not necessarily because it's a sport in an off season, but the introduction of flag football in Los Angeles has really lit up programs around the country, both men and women. There are collegiate university programs popping up at the club, and there's even talk of maybe making that a varsity sport, perhaps most notably for women, and that's kind of what the Olympic movement can also do. Is kind of I'm not sure that there's been this huge wide swath of break dancing that has emerged out of last
I'm
summer
not sure
in
that
Paris. Maybe in Australia,
fair.
maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a fair argument, but I would argue for cross country, the love is there, the numbers are there. I mean, look at all these athletes right now lining up for the B race. Wait till we see these A races. The athletes are there. They want to continue in this sport, and it's hard at the professional level there really is no full-time cross country athlete. So it would really change the future for a lot of these athletes that are better cross runners than track athletes. So I'm excited about it, and now look at all these athletes we get to see now, Paul, in this B race.
See, Northern Arizona, some unattached athletes as well. Colorado, Duke, Georgetown, Louisville, North Carolina, Tulane, Villanova, all having athletes here. You see Michigan State, Spartans, BYU always loaded up with depth, and they'll have a contingent here in this race as well. Many of these athletes, as we saw with Allie Weimer, might be wearing their collegiate singlet, but can be listed in the results as unattached, and that's just, again, playing the eligibility rules a little bit, as many of these athletes, we've been in this stretch, Kara, where, due to COVID, due to other circumstances, medical hardships and others, some of these athletes have been seemingly racing in college sports for 22 years.
It does seem that way with some athletes. The COVID athletes are winding down, so hopefully we won't be seeing that much longer.
All right. Final moments before the men's B race gets underway. Then we'll turn our attention to championship racing, first for the women, then followed by the men. The gun at the ready and now is up in Madison. And we have our first false start in cross country, but they will not recall the athletes here. But that's something I haven't seen in a while, Kara.
That was definitely something I haven't seen. Clear false start, and then as they were moving back, the gun went off. But they have a long way to run. They're going to be okay, but that is definitely new for my eyes. I have not seen that.
8 kilometers for the men, 2 kilometers longer than we saw for the women as they get out and away. The course record set here a year ago at the NCAA Championships. Fabulous race. In fact, the top 10 list has been totally rewritten by that race a year ago when Graham Blanks outlasted Heptum Samuel, though Samuel was running with one shoe. and still was able to win that NCAA title. Graham Blanks did in 28:37.2. That was over 10 kilometers, and the 8-kilometer course record is held by Parker Wolf, who won this race a year ago over Rocky Hansen of Wake Forest, and that time was 23 minutes and 4 seconds. But early action here as they funnel their way to the narrower part of the race course. You see that athletic course tracker for you, as well as our elevation tracker. They get a little bit of a nice downhill moment here that's coming shortly before they do their first kind of climb. But, you know, like any good cross-country course, some good undulations already, reminding them that this is not going to be a flat, fast course like you'd see elsewhere.
Yeah, this is opening up differently than we saw in that women's race. Look at how far across they are, Paul, stretched across the course here. This is definitely more packed than what we saw in that women's effort. No one's going straight to the front and just hammering this from the gun.
We'll get a full ID on everybody in the field after 2 kilometers. The Nick Sullivan of Villanova there, bib 2400, is part of the early group in this men's 6,000 meters. Zach Van Houten of Tulane in the blue right alongside him. And I would be remiss and probably asked to leave the broadcast if I didn't mention Colorado has some athletes out here in front. As see if we can, I think that might be Cole Mathieson, but we'll get here a confirmation.
That is Cole.
Yeah. So definitely a different kind of race unfolding here on the men's side in the early going, with a lot bigger pack here at the front, with no one asserting themselves like we saw a Lori of Notre Dame do in the women's race. They get into this little shaded area now as they kind of in that southern end of the course as we zoom a little bit in on that course tracker, but kind of everyone in a comfortable rhythm here in the early going.
Yeah, in the women's race, they were so spread out. You could see everybody sort of working the tangents and making sure they weren't running a step extra. The men can't do that here, at least not right now with this big pack. They're kind of stuck where they are. But it's kind of fun to see this big pack of men running together a little over a K into this race.
So you could crowd lining this race course, as it is a very spectator-friendly course. And then, of course, the race within the race. Spectators going from one point of the course to the other to try to pick up the racing as well. As you mentioned it, you're now in true sport mom mode as you're supporting your son in cross country. Are you getting your workouts in, chasing him around the course, or are you one of those that sticks to one spot?
Oh, no, Paul. I run. I'm crazy. I'm all over the place. People keep sending me these Instagram reels of crazy cross-country parents, and I'm like, yes, I see you, I feel you. Yeah, I'm running through the grass, I'm getting everywhere I can, and running on a course like this for these athletes, it's so great for their coaches and their support because they get to see them so often. It makes a huge difference for the athletes to hear from their support team, but also for the support team to feel like they're helping somehow. So I love courses like this that are fan-friendly.
Colt hasn't yelled at you once yet to stop yelling at him?
No, he has told me to please don't yell, I love you. So I don't yell that anymore. But other than that, we're good.
See Joshua Abraham of New Mexico as we reground ourselves into this race as they're coming up on 2 kilometers, 5 minutes elapsed on the clock in the B race of the 2025 Wisconsin Nuttycombe Invitational. But it is a large, in fact, it's pretty much the group of runners that started this B race, kind of all staying within, we'll call about maybe 5 seconds, maybe a few folks that have gotten flushed out the back. But for the most part, everyone's still in this race and running comfortably.
Yeah, this seems like a more strategic effort than we saw in the women's race, which was really just, gas pedal down, let's go. This feels a little bit more strategic. I do think we'll see a move at some point where some athletes try to separate themselves from the pack. But right now it seems like they are kind of working together I mean, they're working that downhill. They are running very, very fast, but no one's really decided to try to break away and push the pace alone yet. They're kind of sitting together in a pack.
Well, and if you're in the middle of that pack, the challenge on that downhill is you're hoping, you have no idea how fast the people in front of you are going to attack it. So, that chance where people are starting to slow down in front of you can make a case for disaster. Nick Sullivan will be the official leader at 2 kilometers, coming through in exactly 6 minutes on the clock. Zach Van Houten of Tulane, Cosmas Kiprop of Eastern Kentucky, Joshua Abraham of New Mexico, and Kyle Grove of Butler. That is your top 5 as they are all through, and just kind of working our way down through this list. There's
Sullivan
81.
is really.
Go ahead, Karen.
Sullivan has kind of had one little step on the pack. I would say for the last kilometer and a half, he's had kind of like a step on the pack, but nothing. He hasn't really done anything, right, Paul? He's not really trying to tighten it or pull away. They're kind of following him. So it's been interesting. He's not trying to run away with it necessarily, but they've sort of been feeding off of him right now.
You can see that result at the bottom of your screen populating the last runners. There's only 81 guys in this race, 74 of them within 7 seconds of the lead, with just a couple that have fallen back from this main group. So it is a full peloton that's racing here in what is now the second quarter of the 8-kilometer distance on this Zimmer Championship race course. 2.5 kilometers in now, officially on the clock. 7.5 minutes elapsed as you see them now working back towards the second visit to the same part of the course, right around where they started this race. And no one really wanting to take control of this race, and everyone in this group seemingly very comfortable with that type of race unfolding.
I mean, they are running so wide right now. It's interesting to see, and there aren't really tight turns necessarily on this course, but there are turns, and we did see in the women's race, them really running the tangents, running from one side to the other. These men aren't able to do that because they are in such a big pack, but they're taking up almost the entirety of the width of the course right now.
Sullivan in the white of Villanova, Van Houten in the blue of Tulane, side by side. Cole Mathieson, Charles Robertson of Colorado also among the leaders here. Maybe a little bit of a spread out here, but it is very compact here at the front as the density of runners continues to, again, challenge those probably more so in the middle of that pack, because you basically have no control of the pace of the race, and you're kind of stuck with nowhere to go.
No, we talk about this on the track when someone gets boxed in and maybe they're surrounded by 4 athletes. So this is even more intense, right? You're surrounded by 15 athletes here if you're packed in the middle there, and you just have to ride it out. They have a long way to go. They still have 5 kilometers still left to go here. So they're just trying to stay relaxed in that pack, get carried along. But you have to pay attention, just as you said earlier. You have to pay attention, because otherwise you might run up on someone who stops or who moves quickly in front of you.
So coming up on 10 minutes elapsed in this men's 8 kilometers, the B race at the 2025 Nuttycombe Invitational. The A races to follow. The women will be coming up at 50 minutes past the hour, so about 30 minutes from now. The men's 8K will be in the following hour at 30 minutes past. 3.5 kilometers coming up here shortly as we show you on the course tracker again where they are out on the course here at Thomas Zimmer. And Kara finally starting to see a little bit of decompression of that lead group.
Yeah, I think that just shows you that they are running a fairly aggressive pace, right? Like they're not just jogging. It is breaking up just naturally just by the fact that they are running a good clip. But I still think we're going to see some moves in the second half of this race that will break it open more. I think right now this is just more of a strategic effort by these men to stay by the front, ride it out until the moves happen.
Tallest of the figures in the BYU singlet is Hunter Kitchen. Transfer from Salt Lake Community College. Thought maybe we'd see him in the A race, but he's in there bouncing his way through the B race.
Yeah, he's very easy to pick out, isn't he, Paul? And he has such a nice stride. We saw him on the outside earlier, such a big, long stride. So he's probably more comfortable not in that big pack where he is right now. He'll probably feel more comfortable when this breaks up a little bit because it is a very, very long loping stride.
At least he can see where he's going.
Yeah, that's true. He can see over everybody. That's true.
All right, coming up on the 4 kilometer, we'll get that split and reset the field here, but most of the principals that were in that group at 2 kilometers is still there, including that group from Eastern Kentucky. Cosmas Kiprop, I believe, now center of the picture. They'll come off this hill, and then we'll be back across that timing mat. And Hunter Kitchen merges from the field, and maybe this was part of the plan, is right at 4K. He's going to insert some pace, and Kiprop's going to try to cover that move. Will Immels is also there running unattached today. Nick Sullivan and Mathieson of Colorado. That's your top 5, but care of this race changing very quickly.
Yeah, that seemed very deliberate, as if his coach at Icestone had told him to wait until 4 kilometers and then let it go. But Kiprop responded immediately, and now I think he's slightly ahead. But that seemed like a definite bold move by Kitchen that was set up and that he knew he was going to start pressing at that halfway mark.
So after the move by Kitchen, Kiprop and Ian Sanchez Lopez, 24:47 there in the cap, are putting themselves in a position now to try to take control of this race. Jack Graffio, also running attached today, is there in 3rd. But what was once a group of, 75 guys within 7 seconds of each other after 2K. You can see what's happened here with really the pace of the race changing right at that 4 kilometer split.
Yeah, and in a half a kilometer, it has just separated athletes and become strung out. This is really a different race in just 0.6 kilometers than we saw. So it's interesting. You knew they were kind of hanging back. There was no way that they were all in the same exact fitness and the same exact shape. But this is cross country, right? It's knowing when it's the time for you to make your move. When can you drive for home? What are your strengths over your opponent's strengths? So now we see a breakaway here of about 5 athletes. And now the race is on for the individual title. 6 athletes, I would say, are still in that lead group, but really 5.
Yeah, Kiprop, Immels, Sanchez Lopez, Mathieson of Colorado, and Graffio. As we go to screen for you so you can check in on some of those athletes behind. Again, this more valuable to us in that championship race when we're talking about the team race overall. Right now with this B race, not only a handful of squads actually have 5 runners in the race to put together a team score here. So much of the focus here on the front of the race with that women's championship race now inside of 25 minutes from start time.
And you start to see these lead men now. They are sort of hugging the curb when they go around. They're starting to run those tangents more. Now that they've broken apart and they have the room to do so, you'll see when they come to turn. Right now they're in a straightaway, but they are starting to hug the side of the course here and make sure that they're not running any extra steps that they don't have to.
Sanchez Lopez ran at Arizona in the spring track season and competed at the Big 12 Outdoor Championship for them last year in collegiate cross country. Made an appearance for the Wildcats at both Big 12s and the Division I West Regional under head coach at that time, Bernard Legatt. Changes in coaching staff at the University of Arizona as Fred Harvey moved on, and it's one of the kind of new dynamics here too that we'll talk about as we continue this broadcast, Kara, is that, not only are we seeing a lot of new changes to coaching, but the athletes now afforded the opportunity to switch allegiances pretty fast too, and that has kept us all hustling to try to figure out where everyone's running in a given year.
Yeah, a lot of changes to the NCAA, and as you said, we'll get into it more later, but the ease in which athletes can change programs, it's changed the game quite a bit. It's changed the way coaches approach making their teams and the way they have approached even coaching itself. So it's changed a lot, but we have a clear breakaway here of 4 now, Paul. This lead group is getting smaller. They're clearly breaking away here as they approach the 6-kilometer mark.
Yeah, they'll reach that timing mat here very shortly. In fact, right on cue, they're coming through in the latter stages here, about 2 kilometers left, 0.2 of a kilometers left before we'll see that time populate. But now definitely down to that group of 4 with Sanchez Lopez, Kiprop, Mathieson, and Graffio. Nice shadows too here as the sun is clearly broken through here. Again, upper 60 degrees in Madison today. Kiprop is going to have the official lead at 6 kilometers in 18:12.3 as we populate that lead group of runners. Graffio, Mathieson, and Bidwell. So Bidwell is there in 4th. Trying to recalibrate because I've got Sanchez Lopez as 24:47.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bid number in front.
Yeah, it's like it didn't pick him up, I think, or something like that. So, but he is looking good. He has been the one that's whittling down this pack. He's been in the front, sort of pushing this right now, sort of whittling this down. Now we see them in a line. They're no longer running next to each other. He is obviously putting in a move here, and these men have to decide if they can go with it. They still have 1.5 kilometers to run. Do they have the strength to go with him in this move right now, or do they want to wait and see if they can move later? But he's definitely breaking this open.
Graffio out of Westford, Massachusetts. That's where he competed in the high school realm and was 3rd at last year's Foot Locker National Cross Country Championships down in San Diego, making that transition to the collegiate ranks and has moved himself away from Cole Mathieson, another standout high schooler we talked about for many years in those championship seasons. But now Sanchez Lopez trying to put some room on Graffio here.
Graffio's hanging in there, running the tangent, but Sanchez Lopez has really changed the pace here, and you can even see it in his form and the way his arms are swinging. And he's done a lot of damage in just about a kilometer, Paul. I mean, this race looks totally different than it did when they hit that 6-kilometer mark.
Graffio, one of those runners that is running unattached, though if you follow the sport, know he had committed to the University of Colorado, so another good sign for the resurgence of that program in Boulder. And now just kind of biding his time. He's got a kilometer to go. Sanchez Lopez putting his head down, really trying to attack what doesn't amount to the steepest hill, but we talked about in that women's race, depending on how you've played this race, those hills can seem very steep in the tail end of the race.
Yeah, I haven't seen him run enough to know if that's a tell that he's getting tired or if that's just what he does when he's really pushing. So right now he still is looking very good and his lead continues to open up, but we do see him put his head down here and there. He's really, like we just saw right there, like he's really just going to work and getting everything he can out of himself. It looks like it's working because that lead is opening up and he's getting some significant daylight between himself and second place.
Yeah, Graffio does not seem like he's got, at least at this point, anything to respond to, but he's just kind of keeping him here in the distance within a few seconds of the leader. Mathieson back there in third. Kiprop of Eastern Kentucky in fourth as they come in to this final bit of shade, which, dare we say, in mid-October is probably a welcomed opportunity to get a little bit cooled off and get ready for the stretch run here. One more attack of a hill as the Gator crests that hill. Really can see now that downhill that Sanchez Lopez will now kind of open up his stride and see if he can continue to keep that distance between him and Graffio. May have no idea now where he is in relation to the others, but Graffio trying to use that acceleration down the backstretch, and always tough to tell from this straight on Kara whether he's actually closing the gap at all, maybe ever so slightly.
He had his eyes up that hill, where Sanchez Lopez, we saw him looking down a lot, and every cross country coach will tell you to look up, keep your eyes up as you're running, but it is hard to tell from this angle if he's made any room on closing that gap.
So he's going to see the finish line here shortly as Sanchez Lopez, again, looking down for a lot of this last portion of the race, kind of urging himself. Now for the first time we see him look over his shoulder just to see if he can gauge where the competition is as he comes alongside, where the women will start their championship race coming up here shortly. Both Graffio and Sanchez Lopez. Sanchez Lopez lost the hat, and he's really going to the arms now. Graffio now starting to look down. He's just trying to gut it out. Very well within himself on his stride here, and straight away, do we have a close race to the finish? I think Graffio's going to catch him. Well, how about that last kilometer for Zach Graffio, as he will come through and celebrate the kind of win you want to have as a young collegiate cross-country athlete, winning on a championship course here in Madison, Wisconsin in the B race of the men's cross-country invitational. He wins in 24:10, Sanchez Lopez in 24:14, and Joshua Abraham with a nice close as he finishes in third. As we see Mateo Rosio of Butler in fourth, he gets ahead of Kiprop, and now here comes the flood of athletes to the line to close out this B men's race.
That was a great effort out of Graffio. He didn't get caught up in the surges there. He was looking so good in that final climb. I just thought that Sanchez Lopez had done enough to put him away, but he really fought his way back and never faltered in his stride and powered home to win. What a good, smart race out of him. If he was looking for information, if he's ready to move up to varsity and give it a run in the A or championship race, I think that was a very good indicator that he is ready.
Well, I suppose you go over to Sean Carlson and give him a wink.
Right,
hey, Coach,
right.
You like that?
Did you see that? Yeah, I'm sure Sean Carlson saw that. I'm sure he's, it's all a big plan, right? With these coaches, they have people running unattached for a reason. If you're ready and you can help the team, we need you. But if not, we don't want to waste that eligibility, right? So it's all a part of a big plan by these coaches. And that's another reason why these athletes are running these B races literally with the A race following after. It's very easy for the coach to compare the times, to compare the way the athletes looked. It just helps them make a decision on, should I redshirt this freshman? Should I let them run? What does it look like? Can they help us, or should I save them for a year in the future? But that was a great race out of Graffio. Very smart, effortless, honestly, in that second half. Looked really good, really smart, and powered home to take the win.
Keep the camera on the finish line here as the last few runners come across this iconic finish line arch. Again, installed 10 years ago, brought over from Camp Randall Stadium, home of the Wisconsin Badgers football team, and see that crowd several rows deep now, and to be expected with the kind of talent that will be assembled in these championship races that are to follow. The women will be coming up here shortly, a little bit more than 13 minutes from the gun for that women's race, and then the men will follow at 30 minutes after the next hour, or 12:30 Central Time. Here, the other thing I was thinking about with Graffio, too, is Carlson can use him as motivation in the pre-race conversation with his athletes running in the A race as well, right? I mean, the depth and success for runners, I don't know if it makes your fourth or fifth or sixth guy nervous, but it does prove to be motivation because somebody is running that A race, even though somebody should have been bounced from this B race for that false start.
Yeah, that was wild. I have never seen anything like that. They took off. You thought they were going to recall them, and they just shot the gun anyway. But with a race that started kind of conservatively, Paul, with that big group, it ended up splitting up quite a bit in the second half.
And then Sanchez Lopez was committed to try to break this race wide open and left Kiprop and Matisse in there, who were fourth and third, respectively. And then Lopez took the hat off, thought maybe that would help in that closing stretch of the race, but a very controlled last kilometer by Jack Graffio, and he gets to celebrate a win at Nuttycombe as our men's B race champion. There is Jack and his official result, 24-10, as that wraps up the B racing in Madison, Wisconsin. That means we're just a few short minutes away from the first of our two championship races in 2025. The women will be out on the course to race 6K with 19 of the top 30 teams in the country towing the line. More coverage of Nuttycombe on the other side of the break. You're watching live coverage on runnerspace.com and Big Ten Plus.